My name is Imran Sajid and I have conducted my PhD research at ZEF on how to improve irrigation efficiency and productivity of the canal irrigation scheme in Pakistan. Let's start with some general information about agriculture and water issues of Pakistan. Agriculture is the backbone of Pakistan's economy, accounting for about 90% of the country's GDP and employing around 42% of its labor force. Pakistan's one of the main agricultural crop is cotton, also called white gold. Cotton is the most important crop for the large number of textile industries in Pakistan. Cotton and cotton-based textile products account for roughly half of the country's exports volume. But growing cotton demands huge amounts of water. So over the years, Pakistan has developed huge irrigation infrastructures to supply surface water for the cultivation of cotton and other agricultural crops. Pakistan has one of the largest integrated irrigation networks in the world, serving 14 million hectares of contiguous cultivated land. Irrigated agriculture is therefore the major consumer of surface and groundwater in Pakistan. And 90% of Pakistan's water resources are used for agriculture. Surface water from the Indus River and its tributaries are directed into a complex and widespread network of canals and distributed to farmers. Pakistan's surface water distribution to farmers is based on the so-called Warapandi principle, which was put into place a century ago. Warapandi is managed by national state-owned authorities called irrigation departments, who guided the distribution of surface water to farmers. It works as follows. Surface water supply is allocated in fixed 7-day rotations in accordance with a predetermined timetable. The timetable specifies the day, time, and time spent of water supply, which is proportional to the size of land owned by each farmer. So if a farmer has 1 acre of land, he will get around 20 minutes of canal water every week. The elaborated Warapandi irrigation system has its advantages, but naturally it has its trade-offs too. The main idea behind it was to maintain an equitable distribution of available surface water among farmers, and in addition, to cope with water scarcity by efficiently irrigating as much agricultural land as possible. So the advantages of Warapandi can be summarized as: Warapandi is relatively easy to run, it is transparent, it is managed by national institution, so water distribution can be regulated. Most water distribution operates via man-made channels. The trade-offs of the Warapandi system includes its inflexibility. For instance, when it comes to the day-to-day challenges of water distribution, the rather rigid supply-based irrigation system does not consider conveyance losses along canals, which leads to a lower water availability for tail canal users. In addition, Warapandi does not always match the time-dependent demand of crops, nor does it take soil features and an increasingly climate variability into account. So although it is clear that Warapandi has been serving Pakistan's irrigated agriculture well over the past century, there are new challenges to address. The main ones are coping with increasing water scarcity and coping with climate variability. Pakistan is classified as one of the 36 most water-stressed countries in the world. Besides population growth, we can observe a rising competition between different sectors for water resources. In addition, poor operation and maintenance of irrigation infrastructures play a role. Moreover, the increase in cropping intensity in irrigated agriculture from 70% to 120% has been leading to the unsustainable abstraction of groundwater. As for the role of climate change, well, it has unbalanced the overall water cycle and poses a serious threat to Pakistan's water resources and their management. The devastating floods which inundated Pakistan in September 2022 are just one example of the impact of climate change. A reduced availability of surface water due to siltation of water reservoir is another. I carried out my doctoral research in the province of Punjab, a primarily agricultural province with wheat and cotton as major crops. I wanted to find out if there are simply to apply in efficient methods to increase the irrigation efficiency and at the same time the agricultural productivity of cotton cultivation, all within the given framework of Warapandi system. So I started with assessing current irrigation practices, and next I looked into potential options to increase irrigation efficiency and productivity. My entry point was irrigation scheduling. Presuming that future large-scale water allocation in Pakistan would continue to be based on the Warapandi principle, I looked at a different angle for introducing more flexible irrigation practice that would enable cotton farmers to better cope with water scarcity and climate variability. So I analyzed the possibility of a bottom-up approach and identified well-informed water allocation as a promising entry point. I conducted extensive fieldwork in Punjab between April-September 2019 and 2020, where I collected soil samples, measured canal water, and monitored farmers' activities. After concluding my fieldwork, I processed all the collected data in a model called AquaCrop. This model enabled me to evaluate water balance parameters of different types of cotton irrigation methods, such as flat basin, raised bed furrow, ridge bed furrow, and drip irrigation. The result revealed that farmers who practiced drip irrigation attained the highest cotton yields, namely 4.5 tons per hectare. The drip farmer achieved this by applying a minimum amount of water throughout the cotton growth period, in comparison to all other fields with yield around 2.2 tons per hectare. Since all farmers were receiving limited canal water allocation, so instead, they abstracted substantially groundwater using fuel energy to fulfill the water demand of their cotton fields. However, this practice has led to over-irrigation as well. Our goal was to find a way to better utilize the limited canal water allocation and, at the same time, avoid or minimize the farmers' pumping of groundwater. We also have to take into account that the Warapandi rotation principle will be upheld in future. So given all this, we found that the best entry point for more flexible and demand-oriented irrigation in order to achieve higher water productivity was to integrate interventions into a package for on-farm water management. The first tested intervention consisted of introducing demand-oriented irrigation schedule. A second intervention was to advance irrigation schedule by sensor-based soil moisture monitoring. A third potential intervention we developed was to store the allocated water under the Warapandi system in a pond during the potential surplus time, while using a drip irrigation method for cotton could considerably reduce the undersupply of water in Warapandi guided irrigation scheme. We also found out that the most important barriers to the implementation of water management interventions were: First, lack of training. Second, financial resources. And third, low awareness among farmers. But we do have successful farmers in the area actually. We saw that farmers were coming to successful drip farmer to learn from his experience. Thus, a farmer-to-farmer approach is a way forward to build trust, increase awareness, and enhance implementation of water management interventions. This research about the actual irrigation practice of cotton in Punjab area can provide useful information to policymakers, academics, private sector employees, and farmers. It shows how on-farm water management interventions could contribute to water security in the irrigation sector under the impact of climate change in Pakistan and beyond.